If you are in human form, and most of my listeners are at this particular juncture in space-time, you will have experienced a breach of trust, being disappointed in somebody who let you down. Sometimes it is our caregivers, and the breach of trust happens very, very, very early. And other times it is friends or loves or bosses, business partners. Why is it that being human means that we all ubiquitously have experienced somebody breaking our trust? Well, let's back up and understand what trust is. Trust can be thought of as many different ways, and I'm just going to touch on one or two points here because I want to move it along to something else. Trust is an agreement, and it can be explicit, so it can be a contract, it can be a job, it can be a relationship where you negotiate monogamy or polyamory or whatever your flavor is. Or trust can be implicit, meaning I let you into my circle and I am assuming that you're going to be treating me the way that I know I deserve to be treated, and not casting an illusion of a mirror of who you think you should be, but who you're not really, and broadcasting that image to me like a hologram on top of your persona. Secretly, in the shadows, doing people wrong. And so this is where the implicit nature of trust becomes very, very interesting to dissect. Because let's say that you have completed, or mostly completed, your shadow work journey, and you learn how to forgive, you learn how to trust, you learn how to love. It's remarkable. A lot of people are actually very, very deeply afraid to be seen, and thus are deeply afraid of love. It's remarkable to see it in action. It really is. So as a result, you see a lot of lying or misrepresenting intentions, or misrepresenting who they really are, in an effect to cast up an illusion. And I would say this is also mostly ubiquitous, meaning I haven't met a human that hasn't done this at some point in their life. And part of the spiritual awakening journey, in my opinion, is to elevating the self beyond the need to do that, and to be able to stand completely bare in front of somebody who you love, who would potentially judge you and reject you or abandon you, or whatever your trigger is, whatever you are afraid of. People have different triggers. I'm just listing some of the common ones. And you're still yourself. Authentically, you are still you. And there's no hiding. There's no lying. There's no manipulation. You are fully present, fully responsible, and fully alive, in my opinion. Because you are risking everything to be seen. And that requires a level of bravery that is not common. And so these implicit trust agreements, we learn, because we're social animals, we learn what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. And there's a lot in human behavior that is unspoken. We have many, many, many agreements. And some of the worst infringes, I would say, on trust are the combination of the explicit and the implicit agreements being broken. So behind your back and in front of your face, with no regard for your value system, your ethics, your needs, what you expect, what you agreed to, the hidden things, the hidden variables that you agreed to. And this is a mark of somebody that is still early on the awakening journey, especially when they don't understand that not only does it hurt them in the end, but it's all revealed and it's all seen. And so our job as reality shifters is to not continue with people who are continuously breaking our trust. And you can level yourself up. I've experienced this. I know others have too. You can level yourself up. And you can be drawn to people who remind you of your old version of yourself. And you can get paired with them. You can choose to pair yourself with them as a way to give back or as a way to rescue a lost part of yourself. We habitually do this. A lot of people do subconsciously, especially when we're still mirroring. And as we close out cycles, we usually have, in my experience at least, one more exit ramp that we have to take, where we are presented with somebody that represents a past lesson. And we get close enough to them to be able to decide, I'm not doing this again. I'm not going down this road. This is a dead end road. I'm taking the exit. And that requires a level of wisdom and discernment that I believe is really, really important. Because sometimes people feel that when they get re-enmeshed with somebody who represents a past lesson, they feel like there's something wrong with them. And I disagree, because it's an opportunity to build one of the most important modalities of trust, and that is self-trust. You see, I personally believe that we become wounded when we rely on other people to not break our trust. And when we shift the focus to ourselves and building self-trust, the ability to go headlong into whatever situation you want to, because you know that now you are experienced enough, wise enough, discerning enough, and sensitive enough, and intuitive enough, as well as others, to be able to pull out when you need to make the right decision. You see, very often people get trapped in self-sabotaging loops where they're constantly in their head about the partnership, or can I trust them? Can I trust them? Can I trust them? And this relentless mental activity actually can completely be offset if you simply ask yourself, can I trust me? Can I trust myself? Because there's something that happens when you go through a couple of these rodeos and you get knocked off the bull. And in some cases you get run over, right? It can be not pretty sometimes. I've had my fair share of rodeos that I didn't make it out all that great, but I brushed myself off and I picked myself up and I did it again. And over time, you learn what the rodeo is about. You learn to feel the bull with your legs. You learn to observe the red flags. You learn to think about the arena, to think about the purpose of what is going on, instead of being stuck in the perspective of just trying to hold on. And when we get lost in the, can I trust them? Can I trust them? I don't know, can I trust them? What it does is it disconnects us from ourself. Because after a period of time, what you'll find is that you get really good at analyzing behavior naturally. You get really good at trusting your intuition. You get faster at saying no. You get better at clarifying boundaries. You get stronger. You get sharper. And then at some point, and this is where I'm at, other people's behavior is their behavior. And then you decide, is this okay with me or is it not? What kind of road is this leading me down? What kind of lessons is this going to bring into my life? How do I feel? You know, at a certain point, you become so energetically attuned that you're like, I don't need to see more. You know, it used to be, before I was awake, especially to energy and intuition, I would need evidence. I would need data. And I would need my logic mind to convince me to disengage. And what that did is that left me in situations that were way too long in like some really dark alleyways. And I'm blindly going in saying, oh, there's nothing to worry about, because I didn't understand this principle that people project their false self, their curated self. False self has a wrong connotation. We all have a curated self, an image that we pour out into reality, right? And we aspire to be that, but sometimes people are not that at all. And I've already talked about it a little bit, and I don't want to get off track, but some people are masters at putting forth an illusion. And this illusion can be very, very charming and very, very attractive, because it has literally sometimes been over decades practiced and honed, and almost like going to the gym, it is a skill. And so as a result, you're drawn to that image. And then when you get to know the people, and you can listen to the nesting doll episode for a little bit more of this effect, you realize that there's another person inside. And sometimes it's benign, it's not harmful. It's just like, oh, I didn't know you had this other side to you. And it's cool. Like I'm digging it, but I'm a little blindsided here. And other times can be quite frightening. And so it's this whole spectrum that we all naturally, as part of our species, social behavior, we collectively, at least in the West, we collectively put forth our best foot. It's like going to a job interview. You don't show up in your pajamas, right? hopefully not, you put your best foot forward. And we do this in dating. We do this all over the place. It's normal. But it means that sometimes we are really frightened that deep down there's a part of us that we have to hide. And eventually it comes out. And when it comes out, that's when people will say to themselves, I should have listened to my intuition. I knew it. And so when you develop the relationship with yourself of trust, then what you can do is you can feel the vibe. You can actually just straight away be like, no, I don't need to go down any roads with them. I can just feel it. No. And you don't need to collect data points and get caught in the mind and say, oh, I don't know. You just know at this deeper level, this almost like subconscious level. But your goal is to trust that if you don't already. And it is a significant part of the self-mastery journey. I would say that 9 out of 10 clients that I work with, 90% of people that I work with from all ages, don't trust themselves. They actually don't. They don't trust their emotions. They don't trust their intuition. They don't trust their subconscious. They don't even trust their dreams sometimes. And so as a result, they are easily blindsided, and in some cases, subjected to manipulation in their past, or trauma, or worse. That's a whole other spectrum. And they have these repeated episodes of people that trick them and blindside them. And they don't understand why. And it's because they don't trust themselves. I remember working with one client, and there was an inbound person, a client that they had a bad vibe about. And I brought it to their attention that they had kind of a visceral and we talked about it. And we observed it. Observing is the first part of changing reality. You have to see it first. And so they got to know the clients a little bit, and sure enough, it was a creepy situation. And they were able to back out and shut it down very, very quickly. But had they still been confused about their intuition, confused about their feelings, then they might have gone down an alley with that client. And it could have, I don't know, we didn't have to find out because we just did a vibe check. You could do this easily on your own. I encourage you to trust the vibe. We didn't have to go down any dark alleyways to figure out what was at the end and what type of a wolf was inside. We didn't have to do that. And so when you get good at this, you learn to trust yourself. And then you don't have to spend so much energy in the same way that you did before. And so if you are resonating with this episode, I have another subliminal that I'm going to be posting immediately after the episode concludes, where, and I haven't done the channeling part, but I've made the music, I've composed it, where it is attempting to talk to your subconscious mind and to remind you that you can trust yourself. You should trust yourself. and unlocking the blocking mechanisms that this is the idea behind it, unlocking the blocking mechanisms that you have to preventing you from trusting yourself, to guide you to make better decisions, to see more clearly, more quickly, and intuit a lot faster. This is the subconscious gift that everybody has. And so I want to unlock that a little bit. It's only about 4 minutes. If you would like to listen, then you are welcome to. Otherwise, we will talk soon.